Hello everybody, welcome back to the course Natural Language Processing 1. In this course, we are going to start a new module today. The new module is Computational Morphology. In this module, we have 4 components. First one is morphology, the second is human morphological processing, the third morphological parsing, and the fourth one we are going to look at is finite state transducers. In this video, we are going to look at morphology. What is morphology? Morphology is the study of the way words are built from morphemes. What are morphemes? Morphemes are meaningful units. They are the smallest meaningful units. We also call them minimal meaningful unit. A morpheme is a minimal meaningful unit. So, for example, if you take a word like dogs, the word dogs has 2 morphemes. One is dog, another is the plural morpheme s. Right? S is a plural morpheme because it has the meaning of plurality. So, if you take the word like just a dog, it is one single morpheme. So, the word dogs has 2 morphemes, dog and s. There are 2 broad classes of morphemes. One is stems, like the word dog is a stem. It has the core meaning. It has core meaning. It is the main unit which gives us the meaning. So stems are core meaning units in a lexicon. And there are affixes, like s in dogs is an affix. Affixes can be prefixes, suffixes, infixes or circumfixes. What are affixes? They are bits or pieces that combine with stems to modify or to add meaning or to change the grammatical function of the stem. What is the grammatical function? Grammatical functions like you have noun, verb, etc. Their function can be changed. So a noun which has a nominal function may change to a verb to have verbal function. Right? So you can have change in grammatical functions with the addition of affixes. So let's look at, for example, let's look at some words. Impossible. Impossible has 2 morphemes. Im is your morpheme. It's a negative morpheme, and possible is another morpheme. Here, possible is an adjective, im is a negative prefix. It has changed the meaning, but it hasn't changed the category. It hasn't changed the grammatical function. Similarly, look at the word flying. The word flying, you have 2 morphemes, fly and ing. Ing is affix. It's a suffix here. Fly is your stem. Similarly, you have a word like abs. So, can you guess these 2 stars? O and O. So, absolutely, where you have word split. Absolutely is split and a new morpheme is added, bloody. Right? So, you have another word, irreparable. You have 3 affixes here. One prefix, ir, which is a negative, and there is another affix, which is a suffix, is able. So repair, repairable and irreparable. Right? So that's how stem and morpheme. So in the word irreparable, repair is the stem and ir and able are the morphemes. Right? Are the affixes. Kinds of morphology. There are 2 kinds of morphology, broadly speaking. Concatenative morphology and non-concatenative morphology. When I say concatenative morphology, concatenation happens. That is, prefixes and suffixes added to the stem. It is basically by concatenation. You have another morphology called non-concatenative morphology, where concatenation doesn't take place. In fact, there are no prefixes, suffixes as such. The concatenation is different way. Okay, we'll look at them briefly here. Prefixes and suffixes are called concatenative morphology. A word can have more than one affix. For example, the word undiminishable. In fact, we have already seen one example earlier, irreparable. Here is another word, in undiminishable. Diminish, diminishable, undiminishable. So there are two suffixes, and all of them are added, but they are concatenated. And a word may have many more affixes. If you look at a language like Turkish, it can have 9 or 10 affixes. Right? A particular word may have 9 or 10 affixes. So concatenative morphology is very productive. Look at the example from Turkish. We cannot read the word. It's very difficult to read the word. But you can see the different morphemes which are attached here. Right? K, las, ama, dik, lar, imis, dan, mis, sinis, casina. What's happening here? It's basically civilized, and then you have different suffixes, causative suffix, plural suffix, participle suffix, right? Ablative case suffix, and so on. This actually means behaving as if you are among those whom we could not civilize. That's the meaning of that. So the various pieces of this word are all morphemes, have different meanings like this. You have the first morpheme is become, the second one is a causativizer, it causes to X, and the third one is able, not able, right? And the fourth one is a past participle form. Fifth one, you have a plural first person possessive agreement, and the next one is second person plural agreement, and the next one is ablative affix or ablative case marker, and then you have as if derivational forms and adverb from a finite verb, right? So many affixes in this word. Let's go a bit detail of non-concatenative morphology, and we are basically going to look at English, right? Okay, in non-concatenative morphology, the stem morpheme is split. Stem morpheme is split. That is, you don't add affixes at the end of the word or before the word. That is not a prefix or suffix, but you split the word. You split the morpheme, stem morpheme, and then add things. Following types of affixes are used in non-concatenative morphology. That is, you have infixes. That means it goes in the middle. So if you have a word like sepola, field, you add ge into it, right? Segepola. Ge is the plural marker in this language. Sepola is singular, segepola is plural. Similarly, you have another kind of affix which is transfix, which is found in Hebrew, right? What is a transfix? You have l, a, m, a, d. Okay, it means he studied, lamad. So you have basically the consonants l, m, and d, and when you change the vowels, the meaning of the word changes. So when you add and a in between, it means he studied. But if we change first R to E and the second R to A, it becomes limed, and it means he taught. Right? If we change A's to U and A, it becomes he was taught. So this kind of a non-concatenative morphology is called templatic morphology or root and pattern morphology. You have a template, l, m, d as a template, and then with the addition of different vowels, you get different words, right? So what we have called transfixes. So A and A is a transfix, right? EEA is transfix. They are not together. Whereas infix is only one morpheme or one affix which goes inside. Okay, this is non-concatenative morphology. You are finding two types of non-concatenative morphology. One is infixes and another is transfixes. Let's look at some morpheme categories. So, what are the different morpheme categories? We have already seen infixes, circumfixes, templatic morphology, which are called non-concatenative morphology. So, Arab has templates. If you look at Arabic language, it has templates. Right? We have example from Arabic here. You have a word like right or wug. The word right takes k, t, b as a template. The word wug takes l, g, t as a template. The word right is katab in perfective as active voice. It becomes kutib perfective passive. When you want cause to x, to cause somebody to do that, to write, to cause someone to write, so it becomes k and there is gemination. That is the letter, the sound t is doubled, katab, right? And kutib, x each other, right? Write to each other, then becomes katab or kutib. Similar rules, same rules apply here. Look at that. L, g, t. You have a, u, e for perfect to active and perfect to passive respectively. And the middle sound is geminated, right? Is doubled to get the cause to x, and you get doubling of the vowel a to get x each other, or doubling of u, right? So what we see is it's a productive derivation. So u, e, u, e. So take any word, it will have perfect to active form of it will have perfect to passive will have u, e, right? Okay. What shall lexicon consist of? If morphology is this way, right, then what shall lexicon consist of? Lexicon consists of all the words. That means, do we list all the words in the lexicon? If you are trying to list all the words in English in the lexicon, a word like true or truer, truest, truly, untrue, truth, truthful, truthfully, untruthfully, untruthfulness, all these words have to be listed. They have to be mentioned in the dictionary, or they have to be mentioned in the lexicon. But that is too much. It will occupy a lot of space. It will occupy a lot of memory in terms of computers, right? If you're going to build morphological parser, then listing all the words this way will take a lot of memory. That is not economic. So what we need to have is, we need to have a stem and derivation of all the other words by adding morphemes, affixes, right? So what we need in a lexicon should contain the stems and morphological rules. So here is a word which is derived from true. So you have the word true as a stem. Then you have truth, a noun is formed by adding th. Then you have full, adjective is formed from truthful, and then again a noun suffix is added, ness, truthfulness, then that is negated by un. So untruthfulness is the word which is derived from the word true, right? So we don't need to mention all the words. We can just mention the morphemes or the affixes, right, which are productive in nature. So all these words are productive. That means they can apply not only to these words, they can apply to any other words. You will find take other adjectives, you will have er and est, like slower, slower, slowest, fast, faster, fastest, tall, taller, tallest, right? That's found. Similarly, you can have ly ending, that is adverbial. Slow, slowly, right? Slow, slowly. Ly ending is also very productive. You also have a negative un as predictive prefix. This also noun form and the adjective form or the adverbial and so on. They are all productive in nature. That means they apply not only to one particular word, they apply across words. So by representing knowledge about the internal structure of words and the rules of word formation, we can save room and search time. When you are building a morphology, when you are building a lexicon, if you list the internal structure of words and then rules, then it's easy for us to search the lexicon for a particular word. Right? It will also save space. So that's why we need to do morphology. Why do we need to do morphology? If somebody asks you a question like that, you'll say morphology is necessary to save space in the lexicon, and to search for a particular word in the lexicon is easier. Now let's look at different classes of morphology. We can have two broad classes of morphology. That is, morphology can be divided into two broad classes: inflectional morphology and derivational morphology. What is inflectional morphology? Inflectional morphology is a combination of stem and morpheme, that is an affix, resulting in word of same class. When I say class, what do we mean by class? Class is nothing but what we have been calling parts of speech in our traditional grammars. So noun is a class, verb is a class, adjective is a class, adverb is a class. So when we combine an affix, when you combine a morpheme to a stem, if it doesn't change the class of the stem, then that is inflection. That comes under inflectional morphology. For example, if you take the word cat, cat is a noun, and if I add the plural suffix s to it, it becomes cats, and the word cats is still a noun. Cat is a noun, cats is also a noun. So the class of the word hasn't changed. So plural morpheme comes under inflectional morphology. Usually, inflectional morphology fills a syntactic feature such as agreement. In syntax, what we call agreement, right? That is filled by inflectional morphology. So there is plural s. You also have tense, past tense. A verb remains as a verb when you add past tense morpheme, or a verb remains as a verb when you add present tense morpheme, right? So agreement and tense come under inflectional morphology. How about derivational morphology? Derivational morphology deals with combination of stem and morpheme, which results in a word of a different class. That is, stem belongs to a particular class, a noun, a verb, or adjective, and when you add a morpheme, the result is of a different class. That is, noun becoming an adjective, or adjective becoming a noun, or noun becoming a verb, or verb becoming an adverb. Right? The class changes. Meaning of the new word may be hard to predict sometimes. When you add affix in derivational morphology, the word's meaning may change sometimes. Right? Let's take an example. Asian is a nominal suffix in words such as computerization. Computerize is a verb. When you add Asian, computerization is a noun. So the verb changes to noun. Right? That is dealt with in derivational morphology. Right? Difference between inflectional morphology and derivational morphology. Inflectional morphology deals with inflections where the class does not change. Derivational morphology deals with derivation suffixes or prefixes where the derived word may have a different class, may have different meaning too. Inflection morphology. We are going to look at only English inflection morphology. English inflection morphology is very simpler than many other morphologies. Inflection morphology of other languages. Like if you look at Indian languages, you have a complex inflection morphology sometimes. Look at inflection morphology. When a word stem combines with grammatical morpheme, it produces a word of the same class. Right? Noun remains as a noun, verb remains as a verb, adjective remains as an adjective. Usually serves a syntactic function. So whatever inflection which we have, that is basically contributing a syntactic function. So for example, agreement. Like becomes likes. Right? Likes is third person singular agreement. Like is a verb, likes is also a verb. Or liked, which is past tense. So like the verb, liked is also a verb. The only difference is like is in present tense, liked is in past tense. Similarly, a word like bird is a noun, and when you add s, it becomes birds. Bird is a noun, birds is also a noun. Nominal morphology, that is morphology related to nouns. What are the inflectionals which nouns take? Plural forms, that is s or es is added to a noun to get a plural. There are also other nouns which do not take ses but form plurals. We call them irregular forms, which we'll look at later. Then you have mass versus count nouns. Mass nouns are nouns which cannot be counted. Like if you have a word like oil, you cannot count one. You cannot say one oil, two oils, three oils. Right? It's a mass noun. Rice is a mass noun. Hair is a mass noun. But count nouns are those nouns which have countability as the feature. So if we have a word like table, tables is the plural. One table, two tables, three tables, etc. So count nouns take plural morphemes or plural suffixes. Right? Example, email or emails is a count noun. Email is a count noun. Email can also be used as a mass. No, cannot be used as a mass noun. Then possessives. Nouns can also have possessive inflection. So if you say John, you say John's book, right? Where you have possessive s added to nouns, right? So in English, nominal morphology includes plurals and then possessives. Regular versus irregular. It gets a little complicated by the fact that some words misbehave. That is, they don't follow the rules. Right? If you have a word like cat, you hit plural cats. Dog becomes dogs. Right? Table becomes tables. These are regular. But you have a word like child, becomes children. You don't say childs. It doesn't follow the rule. Or if you have a word like sheep, it remains as sheep as plural. Right? If you have a word like datum, data is the plural. So, those words which do not follow rules are irregular words, irregular nouns. So, the terms regular and irregular are used to refer to words that follow the rules and those that don't, respectively. Right? Those follow the rules are regular nouns. Those do not follow the rules are irregular nouns. You have examples of regulars and irregulars. Here, regular nouns like cat, singulars, cat, thrush. Plurals are cats and thrushes. Possessives, cats, thrushes. Irregular nouns, singular, you have mouse and ox. Plurals, mice and oxen. Right? Mouse, mice, ox become oxen. Similarly, let's look at verbal morphology of English. There are two types of verbs we know: main verbs and auxiliary verbs. Main verbs like sleep, like, fear are regular verbs because they take suffixes like s, ing, ed, right? These are regular verbs. These are the morphemes which are added to regular verbs. So you can say sleeps, sleeping, sleep, slept. Slept is not, it's irregular here little, right? Like, likes, liking, liked, fear, fears, fearing, feared, right? And these main verbs are also productive. That means you can add more main verbs. So new verbs are formed like that: emailed, instant messaged, faxed, home read, googled, right? New words. These are all new verbs. New verbs are added because they all belong to main verbs. But auxiliary verbs are limited. They are fixed in number. You have primary auxiliaries which are be, have and do, and you have modal auxiliaries which have can, will, must. These are all mostly irregular and not productive. That is, you cannot add new auxiliaries to the language. And they are irregular in the sense, see, the verb be has present tense am, is, are, past tense it has were, was, and past participle is been, and present participle is being, right? The irregular verbs, so auxiliaries are irregular in that sense, and they are very few. They may number around 250, but frequently occurring. They frequently occur. English verbal inflection is much simpler than many other languages. Look at our own languages. It's very complex. We have a lot of agreement between the subject and the verb. Verb may agree in first person singular, not only person number, but also it may agree in gender. Okay, and sometimes some verbs agree in honorificity. So verbal inflection is more complex in Indian languages than English. Again here, regular and irregular verbs. Regulars are like walk. You have walk, walks, walking, walked and walked. Irregular verbs are eat, eats, eating, ate, eaten, catch, catches, catching. These are, up to this they are regular, but after that caught, caught. Cut is okay up to cuts and cutting, but past tense is cut, and then past participle is also cut, right? Irregularity is may not be completely regular. Only certain forms may be irregular. Okay, then let's come to derivational morphology. Till now we have seen inflectional morphology, where the class of the word which is derived doesn't change. Derivational morphology is little messy because the rules are not very clear and the system is very quasi, and the meaning also changes sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't change, and then you have class changing derivations. Look at the derivation. Adjective to adverb. We know the word happy. Happy is an adjective. When you add ly, ly is a suffix, derivational suffix. When it is added, it becomes an adverb. Slow becomes slowly. So if you add ly, that should become adverb. But it's not that simple, right? How? You cannot add less to all the words. You cannot say scienceless, concernless, goable, or sleepable. Though able is added to words to make adjectives, you cannot add everywhere. You can add less to more words, to many words, but you cannot add to everything, right? So it's less productive. And then meanings of derived terms harder to predict by rule. So when I say less, does it mean less? That means fewer number, quantity? No. Look at this. When I say clueless, it means there is no clue at all. But when I say careless, does it have this less? Does the word, does the morpheme less give the same meaning for careless, or does it also give the same meaning to nerveless? Nerveless? No, right? Meaning is harder to predict by rule. Let's look at English derivation morphology here. Word stem combines with a grammatical morpheme, either noun, verb, etc., produces a different class. It is more complicated than inflection, right? Derivation morphology is more complicated than inflection morphology. Let's take another example here. Nominalization. That means you form a noun. Take verbs which have eyes, then you add ation to make them nouns. Generalize becomes generalization, realize becomes realization, right? Similarly, you have verbs, you add er to them, then it becomes a noun. So murder becomes murderer, spell becomes speller, teach becomes teacher. Okay, you can form nouns from verbs. You can also have a derivation of adjectives from verbs and nouns. From a verb you can have an adjective, from a noun also you can derive an adjective. You have embrace, a verb, you can embraceable, an adjective. Pity is a noun, you can get pitiable. So able is adjectival suffix. It forms adjectives. What does it form adjectives from? It forms from nouns or from verbs. It's not very systematic, you see. So here again you have care is a verb, wit adjective, careless and witless. Okay, less is an adjective. You also have verb to noun or adjective to noun. Ation or e or er or ness, these are all nominal suffixes. Computerize becomes computerization. Appoint becomes appointee. You also have meant. You can also use appointment with a different meaning. Okay, which is also noun. Kill, killer. Fuzzy becomes fuzziness. More examples here. Noun to adjective or verb to adjective. Al, computation, computational. Embrace, embraceable. Less, clue, clueless. Right? Clue is noun, you're getting an adjective there. Let's take one more example. Let's take one more example, which is more complex. That means a word can take more than one path to get different words. A word like compute to calculate, right? It can take different paths. You can start the word with compute. It can become computer by adding er. Then it may become a verb, computerize. Then it can become another noun, computerization. Verb, compute becomes a noun first, then a verb, and again a noun. All of them have different meanings, though the root is the same. Compute can also become computation, calculation meaning. It can become computational, adjective. So verb to noun and noun to adjective. Or compute may become computer, a noun, computerize a verb, and then the verb to adjective, computerizable. Computational is different from computerizable, though both are adjectives. Both are derived from the same verb. Compute can also become computee. Right? What is computed? Is computee. Noun. It's a verb to noun. So if you have a word, from that word there can be several paths to get different words. Can you see the advantage of not listing the words? It's listing only stems and the rules to derive words in the lexicon. See you in the next video.